Welcome to Smileys. Today we are doing
My
Forge of
apologies.
Darkness.
Sorry.
No worries. So today we are doing Forge of Darkness by Steven Erikson, and I think we are going to discuss the chapters 17 and 18. This is going to be the summary episode. So we have about a total of 7,000 words to get through, I think, more or
Something
less.
like that, yeah. Which is the usual at this point.
True. And so I'm Mora. Welcome. And I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Lee. How are you?
Hello. I'm doing pretty good.
So the spoiler scope is spoilers, Book of the
Fallen,
spoilers,
and
novels.
Novels of Empire, and up to here. So
Almost
17, 18 of Forge of Darkness. Right?
Yeah. So shall we begin?
Excellent.
Chapter 17. I'm going to follow along on my Kindle. So.
Oh yeah, sure. I have this, so I can't because I'll follow along because I'm doing this summary. So you'll have to bear with me. So chapter 17, or how I like to describe it, a lot of moping and some violence. Now, it's not as violent or gory as the other chapters, but there is some weird things, which I might gloss over because it's not that important. Anyway, so chapter begins, and we are with the Border Swords, who are riding back home, along with Kate Sergeant Raskin's dead body. Right.
Headless dead body.
Headless dead body, yeah. So, Vil and Galak are considerably more amiable. Is it Galak or Galak? Because Gallan is, whatever. Galak.
Yeah.
They are considerably more amiable than both Rint and Varen, both of whom seem downtrodden since their encounter with Olarethel, and for good reason. The pressing debate at the moment is what to do with Raskin's body, with the former party supporting taking it to Drakenshold, while Rint is adamant that they bury him here. After all, what matter empty gestures to a dead man? The tension between them is palpable, and as the silence descends, Varen thinks. The easy camaraderie between the Border Swords is gone. The brother she once knew feels alien to her, and the woman she once was wanders lost. She feels like a child again, which is quite unbefitting of her station, and it all tracks back to the damned as a Hanai witch. She even regrets not parting properly with Arathan. The self-recrimination is strong with this one, and that will remain a motif in the chapter. Vil eventually submits to Rint's demands for a cairn, though the lack of reciprocation stings. Farron steps up to clean the mess. The two of them, Brain and Farron, are in a bad place, and Raskin doesn't deserve the half of it, and Galak's response is followed by Rint breaking down in tears. The Border Swords rein in and attempt to comfort Rint, and though they succeed, Rint declares that he despises Draconis, who will keep gathering power about himself, keep using people, and overall continue being an evil dude. Which is
true.
Not
wrong.
No
objections to it.
And so Rint vows to take him down. It's fine. I just turned blue earlier, and I'm going to turn orange again, so it balances out.
You just stopped bothering with it. Very nice. Yeah.
I've stopped bothering. So I'm not as orange. Anyway, after all, the witch under Raskin, Gate Sergeant of House Dracons, was Draconis' lover. What does that say about Draconis? How about they ask Raskin? Their neutrality, after all.
He's had Olarethel as his girlfriend, so I don't know if he said it on the pod or somewhere else, but yeah.
Probably. I mean,
I don't know.
Of all the people, seriously, Drac. But yeah. So the word for neutrality has already been abused. Pacifism is in alignment with the status quo, and so long as nobody steps up to fix the mess, Draconis and those like him will continue unerringly. Rint will argue for an alliance with Rusander, and after all, does Farron not bear the mark of Draconis' use, with no respect for her feelings, her vulnerabilities, her desires? Farron disagrees. She was the one that wanted the child, and she actively endangered Arathan. It was she that held no respect for others' feelings, desires, and vulnerabilities. All Farron wants now is her brother back, not a war against Draconis, not more blood and violence. Irony. The other two borders will step in. They will vote on Rint's arguments, find a place to bury Raskin, and let Ivis know of the body's location to inform his next of kin, if he has any. For now, however, it is high time they actually camped. The scene closes with further self-reprimands and self-loathing from Farron, thinking about a plane to the south from the not-so-distant past, Marathon, and about the child growing within her. Following this scene, we cut to Rint also thinking while encamped. Obviously, as one does. They think while riding, they think while camping, it's fine. He doesn't regret the violence he brought upon Ethel, but by the very same lack of regret, he struggles to envisage his wife and child. This will come back again. The man that he became, he thinks, is hardly suited for a loving wife and child. He knows only violence. He notices Raskin's moccasins set aside, and ponders what even brought him and Farron here in the first place. And the short answer is Draconis' noble standing. Rint hopes, nay, he prays, that Ursander finds a way through the madness, albeit he understands that it'll be bloody, and it'll be bloody because the guilty are aplenty, and those with power rarely are willing to give it up or indeed consider their station and how they ended up with that power in the first place. Power in such matters stemmed from inequity, and as we've discussed, Corel Gallan is nothing if not extremely classist. Everyone participating knew their place in the rituals conducted. He even thinks of Sagander's nonsense, and how he held to those beliefs with utter conviction and lack of self-awareness. Dead on. He is not but a microcosm of the self-righteous, however. The Border Swords are supposed to be different. They're comprised of men and women that fled this classist rigidity to live amongst the wild. But Rint wonders if this is not yet another lie. The Border Swords are not living in accord with nature, but rather are, perhaps more gently than the rest of the Tiste, despoiling nature all the same. Rint declares that he would fight for justice and show to the Border Swords the sordid delusions of their neutrality. How can they be neutral when to live is to fight against 1,000 enemies from nature to one another? Rint knows that he himself is too far gone. He knows no doubts, not anymore, and longs for war and violence. And there's yet more self-recrimination from the Border Sword. Yay.
But thankfully...
He thinks to...
you're not yet done. Go on, sorry.
Yeah.
He
thinks to Farron's unborn child and wonders how any god wouldn't flee the loss of innocence from the moment of birth. Existence is an endless war against nature, and Rint has finally come to see what he's lost and wants little more than to die. God, these people are like beacons of sunshine.
Yeah.
So, do you have any thoughts you want to add?
No, we get a great interruption. I'm just waiting for that.
He's also interrupted by the arrival of a pack of Jalek.
The same ones we saw before without.
Yep.
Jalek.
So their presence is somewhat questionable. Rint
do you know what is the meaning of
certain? Yeah?
The meaning of the word rusk? Do you have
I looked it up.
You looked it up?
Yeah.
Okay. What is it?
It's hard twice baked bread.
Yeah.
That is allegedly used for baby food.
Yes. Not just baby food, like it's like extremely common, like roadside tea shops.
Yeah.
They will always sell you rusk. Yeah, it's so I find it very fun. And like generally, like street dogs, you generally buy a rusk and feed street dogs with a rusk. So a Jalek named rusk is a bit funny. Go on, sorry.
So yeah. No. So while their presence is somewhat questionable, Rint is quite certain that they should be safe. The pack assembles their Jalek forms and quickly assures the Border Swords that they're safe from them. They are at peace after all, but should they instead challenge, why, the Jalek would be more than happy to humor them. The Jalek have food with them and would play host. As we mentioned just now, their host is none other than Rusk, Bloodkin de Sagral, the self-shamed Jack that tried to pry away Coria from Hout's hands, and while they are denied access to Farron, they are willing to share all the same.
You said the word we're going with. Access.
Yeah. Access. They are willing to share their gifts all the same. A gift, then, born of Jalek generosity. Yes. In truth, Rusk is really not keen on the whole giving hostages idea, which tracks. We know that.
Yeah.
And warns the Border Swords. Yeah.
I thought they were returning from giving up the hostages, but it doesn't seem like that, right? Because
it's been a while since that, I think.
He has younger people with him now.
Yeah. So he warns the Border Swords. I can't even call it thinly veiled. The guy's just openly hostile about their inevitable demise at Jalek hands should any harm befall the pups. They've heard one too many reassurances in the face of oncoming civil war, and they're really not impressed, which is fair.
Yeah, but it's all news to
Alas,
these guys,
yeah,
right?
yeah, it
They haven't heard
is
of.
news to the border swords,
Yeah.
but yeah. Alas, the Jurlak have to live with the new peace, which sounds awfully close to what Rint was describing earlier about the lack of border sword neutrality and their constant fight against nature. The way he phrases it, because the Tiste hunt in Jurlak hunting grounds with impunity and leave scant little for the predators to actually eat. Rask has pups with him to learn the ways of hunting and so comprehend all that the Jurlak have lost. The border swords would often raid the Jurlak grounds, race them to the kill sites, and claim the carcasses for their own without sharing. Rask elects not to do that because a host can do more or less, which is really interesting. But informs the Tiste that their war began because of the Tiste's incessant raiding into their lands. In short, they have overrun the Jurlak. They have overrun the Jurlak ways, rather, and have hunted prey and predator alike to near extinction. And when they eventually do so, what will fill their bellies? Victory?
Maybe if it's a
Rint.
good brand of candy, maybe.
What? Yeah, I guess it is. So Rint pushes Ruxword away because, frankly, he's right, and Rint knows it, but he's in no position or mood to actually give them any thought, and gazes into the fire. Gallan asks the Jelek about further information about the alleged border sword hunters. Rusk instead goes on about a big army of border swords on a hunt an unspecified amount of time ago, and armies of Tiste amassing in Abar Dalak and Dragon's Hold. Uh-oh.
Yes. Now we know the
The Tiste
significance
civil
of
war
this.
has begun, and the Jelek need do no more than simply wait and see. With a few bitter words, which also tracks, the Jelek leave, and they respond with something akin to too little too late, which, yeah, is fair, to Rint's offer of an olive branch. The remaining border swords debate amongst themselves as to the truth of Rust's words, and the scene closes with a foreboding, I hope the hunt went well. And, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Well,
it's not, it's so much worse when you read it for the second time, when you know what's going to happen. Like by the end of this chapter, we know what's going on, and then to revisit it, it's so sad. And Rusk is being such a dick here. Like he knows exactly what's going on. He can warn them. He can tell them to like ride faster or something. Uh,
I don't think he's been
they all deserve each other.
reasonable.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, from fair, but they're just border swords. They didn't deserve any of these things.
Yeah,
They're border swords.
true enough.
Yeah.
So, you've been warned properly. Anyway. So, in scene 2, or what I will dub
Riven
scene
Keep.
2,
Scene 3?
we're over with
Okay, yeah, scene 2.
Lieutenant Risp overlooking Riven Keep, which incidentally is the home village of the border swords, and you can probably pick up where this is going.
Do you know what? Sorry,
What?
my first read, because I don't look up maps, because I'm too cool for maps. I didn't know what was Riven Keep. I read the whole thing, and then I was so confused. Like, why are these people getting attacked? And because everything is new, right? Lahanis, everyone. These are all names we've not seen before. So yeah, it was very confusing because that's the only indication you have that they are hunting border swords here. Just that one phrase that it's Riven Keep. If you miss that, you miss the whole thing. So I just wanted to tell you that.
It should be noted that incidentally, Riven Keep is basically on the exact opposite side of Coral Gallan in relation to Red Sword. So the fact that there's Legion soldiers there isn't like, yeah. Anyway, so
yeah,
Riven Keep was well fortified, and it's designed to hold under siege because it's a border fort. So it was well then that those present were unaware of the threat coming close. Yay. So,
but also all the hunters have gone, right?
Yeah.
No, the village is empty. Yeah.
Yep. So Asala, Captain Asala, was in unofficial command of the Legion unit, and Resp really doesn't like her for that. Not that she's in command necessarily, but also committed to the field as Salan, a strange Legion captain, most assuredly a common criminal given his actions, and also Sala's husband. And because of the power of love and boners, he gets to breathe rather than hang, as was the plan following the
What?
botched attack on the caravan.
Do you have to pass your value judgments on these people? I
I'm
mean,
so
there are
sorry.
better scenes coming up for that. This is not the one
Yeah. Anyway, so
where we can judge. Yeah.
the old sergeant under Risp's command is not particularly keen on the whole murdering the border swords idea. Hold that thought. And Risp is extraordinarily nonchalant about the whole business as well, but she's capable and willing to bull rank if need be, because she's a lieutenant, he's a sergeant, moreover, most of the troop doesn't quite know what they're actually doing here, but that's irrelevant, as the more messy the whole thing becomes, the better. Risp almost, very close to having a moment of self-awareness. If Hunral is dead, then their ulterior authority is removed, and they will be directly answerable for the crimes they're about to commit, which would make them inexcusable atrocities, but she kind of drops that.
Yeah. There would always be miscalculations or something. She moves on like that.
Risp then breaks down the plan. They rode out to Dragon's Lands, left a trail leading all the way to Riven Keep, and will thus commit yet another atrocity upon the Tiste to further divide their future enemies. And shockingly, that works. I'm not sure, whatever.
The Tiste are not like high IQ, amazing, cooperative type of society.
Yeah, the irony of the whole ordeal is clearly lost on Risp. Alas, they do what they do because of necessity. Chew that word, then spit it out as befits its usage here, as every soldier understands it. And spoiler alert, necessity is brought up again in the next chapter, and we're going to talk about it later when it comes up. So, incidentally, this is also Risp's first engagement.
Oh.
So, we view the arrival of the Legionnaires through a scholar by the name of Kristen, and I will never forgive Steve for introducing this character only to kill her 2 pages later.
Immediately, yeah. Immediately. She doesn't last like a minute.
So she had traveled the world, and she had found among the Jalarkan and Telakai oral traditions, as well as the jagged writings, copied, of course, since Konfos did his thing.
Is Kristen supposed to be like a Karish stand-in, like a Karish analog?
I guess.
Yeah, because similar names, both scholars, both killed unceremoniously. Yeah. Go on.
Yeah, she had found the secrets of the First Age. It all began with the Azathanai, fickle, curious, impulsive, perverse gods that walked in the guise of mortals with unimaginable power at their very fingertips. Yeah, that tracks. She could not understand them, but she didn't need to. Kristen also believes that the Azathanai created the individual races. From the Jagged to the Tiste to the Forlkan, all were Azathanai creations. The Jagged in turn created the Jalarkan, expounding or experimenting on the gift of soul taken. And slowly, inexorably, every race took its own destiny in its hands, and any semblance of control the Azathanai may once have held over the races they had created was fast dwindling. The game was changing, and Kristen foresaw a future where the players could define their own rules. These were glorious times indeed. Before I move on to that bit, I do want to point out that Kristen has some fairly interesting word choices, which I cannot do justice, obviously, in a summary. But if I could actually find it,
page 540 something.
You're on Kindle. I'm not. That's the problem.
Isn't it the same? Isn't it similar?
No, unfortunately not. Not really.
Okay. So one thing I noticed is she calls the Telakai as keepers of songs. So does it mean Karsa has a good singing voice?
Yeah. I don't know.
Did you find your quote yet?
Maybe. I'm working on it.
Tell me what. Tell me what. I can find it. I have it in my hand.
No, just I'm almost there. Hang on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah, like pieces on a board, moves
Yeah.
made
That.
and then countered, pieces falling, which is how she describes the Azathanai, right? And that comes up again in when the Legionnaires march in. Basically, what Kristen describes is that now, after so long, after all these years, the players have finally taken control of the game and have broken away from their masters who would use them as pieces. And now the Tiste have just flipped that on its head and have gone back to being mastered and being played with as pieces. Which,
Nice. Very
for
nice.
a character that appears in like 4 pages, is very cool. And god damn
I
it,
know.
Steve.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's like, remember this? There was one
So angry.
assassin guy in Gardens of the Moon. He appears, and I don't remember his name. The Seba Kafar's father or brother or someone. The original.
Yeah.
He appears, and then like the next page, he dies. Crossbow to the head or something. He just immediately dies. But he was not interesting. He just came and he just died. So there was nothing in that. But this was so lovingly written, so nicely. You start like liking this character, and then that's it. She can hear shouting, and then the keep gate is open, and that's it. And then we see that the whole tower is like collapsed or something.
Yeah.
So now, Risp.
Before I get to that, so hearing something, the Legionnaires running down the borders for villagers, Kristen is dumbstruck. In her capacity as a scholar, she never could quite articulate her thoughts, and that was ever her failing. That is a self-insert for sure. Especially now, this scene did not belong. Not in the new age Kristen was envisioning. She had made such discoveries. And then to really drive the point home, Gallan gets back to Risp slaughtering poor innocents. Yay! I'm gonna gloss over this really quick because
No,
it's
you are okay because it
it's
felt
just
so
people killing.
No, not just that, but the reaction from Risp when she's doing this, it's not like she's just like Brucalian style, just killing people and moving around without thinking about it. She's crying and she's horrified and she can't help it. It's like it's sort of weird. No, see, a sob broke from her throat, a sound broken with horror. She bit back on it. That's how it describes her. Risp is not 100% villain. Like she is a villain, but she doesn't like what she's doing. It's okay. Sure, okay.
This is the same person that was like, "I'm going to take control of the wardens," and after I purge everyone.
She is killing pregnant women and children and all that. That is, I know all that, but she's not doing it gleefully. Like imagine.
Well, I mean, we have to draw the line somewhere, and I guess not being happy about slaughtering innocents is probably a pretty good spot.
No, just imagine someone like Brucalian in this, but then he wouldn't be killing pregnant women. Why would he do that? No, unless they were tennis.
God, we agreed.
Right. So gloss over. People die. Children die.
Well, the point I want to bring up is the very sergeant that had doubts earlier.
Yeah. He's the one. He's the one. I know.
Because just Tiste are awful.
The Tiste, man.
Anyway, a teenage girl around the age of 16 ambushes the sergeant and kills him with ease. Another veteran, who we learn is Bisham, advances on the girl to take vengeance for the death of his comrade. One sec, I'll get to that.
Yeah.
But she takes him down with ease as well, cutting open his neck and slicing the tendons of his sword arm. For no reason whatsoever, because he was dead anyway, but it just... So she advances on Risp, who, in utter confusion, tries to break away and run, but to no avail, and leaping atop the horse Risp had to commandeer, cuts off the lieutenant's hand at the wrist. Risp, alas, is entirely incognizant of irony, Gallan, however, is not, and begs the border for mercy because she was following orders. But the girl is in no mood for such things, which only really punctuates the irony, since Risp is willing to give up the entire smear operation in return for her life, while the border sword is convinced the whole attack is Dracone's doing. The border sort of slits Strip's throat at the windpipe and leaves her to die. Her last thoughts are on the girl's age. If she was 16, she'd be with the hunters. Her killer was a
So she's
15-year-old
15.
girl.
Yeah.
In the meantime, Kristen is implied to have committed suicide, and her body is found by Salon, who seems to be somewhat
Is it?
regretful. As Kristen, she jumped off the building.
Oh. We think she fell down the stairs. I thought she was pushed out or something. Or maybe she
They
was
say
just
she fell
running
down the
out.
stairs. It could be that, but I just think like she's looking
I
down
don't
and
think
she realizes that they
she
keep.
wouldn't. Look, no one will commit suicide by rolling downstairs when you have like windows and stuff. She must have been
I'm not
terrified,
sure.
started running, and then she must have tripped and fell.
It could be, but like she does think that like the keep gate isn't even closed, so she puts two and two together, like, oh, I'm gonna fucking die. So
No, maybe she
I'm
starts running to
going on a
like
limb here.
shut the door. If I run fast, maybe I can shut the door
yeah.
before the
Maybe.
riders catch up.
But
But
anyway,
she's a
her
scholar.
body is found by Salon, who seems to be somewhat regretful as Question was an unintended casualty of the operation. I hate the dice. The Legionnaires need to go, and soon, as well as set to keep alight. But Salon is oddly drawn to this body. Could be guilt speaking, but no, it's probably not. It's the dice. So his wife arrives, splashed with blood, and with a look on her face that speaks of tonight's fierce lovemaking. I fucking hate the dice, seriously. To announce
So
Risp's
you
death.
know what? I take back my accusation that you were passing value judgment because it's the power of love and bonus. Right. I'm sorry.
People are awful. So they both seem entirely indifferent to Risp's death. By the way,
Which
just completely.
I mean, she was what do you call the main character of her story. Like no one really bothered with her.
So a dozen casualties, including about 7 dead, were suffered by the Legionnaires, and a potential border sword witness was among those that escaped slaughter, which, depending on what she saw, could be good or bad. So Salam is instructed to burn the entire village down, along with any dead Legionnaires, appropriately disfigured so that they are rendered unrecognizable. As if the fire won't take care of that, whatever.
It could, haven't you seen like stories where they burn a letter and then you can see the letter in the ashes, you can read it, and it's always like that. The fire is never enough. You have to like have 2 or 3 different methods of destroying evidence.
Mm-hmm.
You should read more murder mysteries.
Probably should, yeah. Good point. So they're ordered to then rendezvous with the next village, presumably to do the very same thing. Yay. So the man is left a bit rattled because Salah was indeed actually quite close to actually executing him, and Risp's death delights him. He requests to see Risp's body to pay his respects.
That's a very good point you noticed because it was about he's probably going to disfigure her face, right? That's what he's going to do.
Yeah. And by the way, just so you know, these 2 guys are Endist's parents.
Yeah, Endist. If you read Toll the Hounds,
Just saying.
Seriously. So I think we can go to Sagander now, which we are both extremely surprised.
Speaking of being incognizant of irony, but yeah, anyway. So, next scene. We're watching through Sagander's eyes as he appraises Captain Khalid Bahan, who is joined by Captain Tathloret, the latter of which seeks to reward Sagander for his betrayal of the monks by granting him a night with her daughter, because that's just the kind of person she is. Did I mention I hate the Tiste? Because I do.
No,
Anyway.
just before, please, just one thing, because it made me laugh loudly. Sagander looks at Khalid Bahan and thinks that he's an unpleasant man, and because he's handsome, and women love him.
Yeah, he's pretty, and he gets like women, and he's like diffusing, and like
he's obviously an unpleasant man. Yeah.
So the Legion slaughtered every single monk within the monastery with added sexual assault and insinuations, because of course. And
Is there
for that particular deed, if you read Sagander inquires about the fate of the mother of the monastery, and like his response is dead eventually.
Eventually, I thought it was just like torture or something.
I did too, but like, what's the point of torturing them if you're just fucking gonna kill everybody anyway?
Torture is
And this
torture.
is
I
the
don't. I
Legion we're
don't know.
talking about.
Jesus.
The
Oh
dice
God.
are awful.
Oh
Anyway,
God. Yeah. I
and it is
hope.
for that
I
particular
hope
deed
like
that
Walk in Shadow has
Sagander
like.
seeks reward.
Sorry.
I just hope like next chapter how Ilgas and Kala talk about like some god of justice that will pluck the most of venal among us. Like I just hope that actually happens. Fuck everything else. Just have that happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it is for that particular deed that Sagander seeks reward. Is the summary enough?
This. Please. Yeah. It's
He's
more
a
than enough.
fucked up person.
We could just
Anyway,
skip this.
so Sagander reluctantly accepts, reluctantly, not because of any feelings of altruism towards the captain's daughter, but because, as we find later, he can't get it on. And on his way to the woman's tent, he thinks on what he sees now. True to Rin's description, Sagander's can't feel any remorse, though he does somewhat understand the atrocities he has visited upon the monks, and somewhat understands his actions are inexcusable. He does rationalize them by saying that he's a crippled, pain-filled wretch by now.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Shiltata lore. That's interesting. We
Also-
made Shiltata lore.
Also, Sagander seems to have a penchant for hating anybody he can't disarm or diffuse with words. Either because they outwit him, but he'd never agree to this, or because they wouldn't bother, instead leveraging their physical strength or strength of arms to force their will upon others.
Yeah.
Which, for Sagander, is an oddly progressive point of view, but it's so self-serving that it just loses all value, so whatever. And of course, he amends this a bit later by saying that all soldiers are savages scant worthy of regard. Indeed, in a perfect world, there wouldn't be any soldiers. A civilization within easy reach of a blade has little to boast about, which is again interesting, but again self-serving to a degree of nauseam.
Yeah.
And in such a world, Sagander and those like him would thrive. Yeah. So, the future does eventually make it to the tent, and albeit the struggle, make his way within. Shazatha Lower awaits him within, and with eyes betraying scant little empathy, but more than a little sympathy, she accepts him inside. So she is far more cognizant of the situation than Sagander gave her credit for. Her mother thinks that by handing her around the soldiers as a reward, she'll somehow become superior to her daughter, but Shazatha is young, whereas though Tath is growing older by the day. She is patient, she is intelligent, and she can outweigh her mother. Sagander, in an uncharacteristic fit of what could almost be described as being a decent person, but is probably just the wrong head talking, pledges himself to her in case she's ever in need of help.
You can't say the wrong head talking because he just outright says he has ED. So he is seriously being a decent person, a nearly decent person here.
Shaldatha is just that good, so she cures AD. It's like Viagra.
Oh God.
Anyway,
I think the Tiste is leaking here into Smiley.
I mean, have you seen the next chapter?
Oh God, yeah. We're not thinking about that now. We're just please finish this shitty
Next
scene.
chapter, next scene rather, not next chapter. And
What's
we're
the next
back
scene?
with Narad.
Oh,
Now it's Narad
oh.
with more moping because we had too much not moping. So yeah, he's here for more self-recrimination after a sea of lack of self-awareness, which is refreshing. And this scene, so I've gone on record before saying I don't particularly like Narad, but this scene is very interesting. So,
I mean, they're not mutually exclusive statements.
True.
So I don't know why you
True
have
enough.
to like.
True enough, but
The
perhaps
more
unsurprisingly,
narrowed reactions you give, the happier I am. That's all.
Okay, well, so perhaps unsurprisingly, guilt about his actions continues to torment him, even, or rather, particularly in his dreams. And as much as he struggles, he can't quite convince himself that he did all he could to absolve himself or to make it easier for the woman, Truth be told, he knew she was still alive, no matter what everyone else told him, and now, days later, still haunted, Naren wonders how he ended up here. Which is, he's probably the only person to actually do that, so points. I don't think anyone else thought, hang on, what the fuck are we doing?
They might have thought, but then he's the only one who's internalized the whole thing. Others might just think about it in passing and just, whatever. Maybe
So
because he's ugly and we already know that the Tiste are extremely they discriminate against wrinkles. Imagine a facial injury and scars and all that. Then nobody's going to give him the time of the day. So he's left alone. Nobody's sleeping with him. Nobody's sharing drinks with him. So he lets his guilt fester. And that's what makes him a decent person. Semi-decent person. But I don't want to argue about Narad right now. That's why.
Let's go with that. Yeah, sure. So he says that there was a boy once, not ugly, not filled with venom and fear. That boy had no love, freedom, warmth, and freedom. Did I mention freedom? I think I mentioned freedom. That boy was self-assured of his own righteousness.
Impossible freedom, it says.
Yeah, very much. A lot of freedom. That boy was self-assured of his own righteousness, drunk on tales of war and heroism, and upon thinking of that boy, Narad is filled with anguish. Now, he finds himself marching through a smoke-filled forest through bloody sands, blindly following the men and women he once called comrades, without any fucks to spare about the fate of the Legion and what they're actually, officially, up to. His comrades cared little for him, his commanders cared even less. Why should he care for them when he didn't want to be here? Which is a bit cold, but also 100% justified.
True.
So
yeah.
You go, girl. So following this train of thought, Narad very quickly realizes that every commander must needs view every soldier under his command much in the same way as he and his fellow legionnaires, well, maybe not he, as his fellow legionnaires anyway, view the deniers, less than Tiste as abominations. An empathetic commander, Hightower, would sooner go insane than participate in battle.
Please.
No?
You are the anti-Tower here, not me, but still.
I'm not. What?
We are going to talk about Tower
now,
one day.
Surely that is an unjust accusation.
What? You keep whatever. Yeah, you just keep changing your viewpoint based on.
I'm not changing my viewpoint. I'm just saying that she's not a very good commander. I didn't say she didn't have empathy.
Yeah, then why are you saying hi Tower right now?
Because he just mentioned empathy in commanders and how they would go insane if they actually were empathetic.
No, we're not doing Tower now. Please continue.
Yeah. All soldiers must surrender such feelings in themselves, and upon thinking of that, Narad thinks back to that young boy and how the warmth and love given to him was severed. Yikes. Who could return from such things? How can anyone, especially Narad, come back from the atrocities they have committed? As for him, he walks with his ugliness for all to see, which is something that's tangentially similar, but somewhat opposite to what Ursander had said to Serap eons ago in chapter 12. But read it again, it's really nice. I like it. So, and haunts others, even as they mock him. He now walks through another denier camp, and he tries to convince himself, or it's a bit confusing. I say convince himself, I don't think he is. There is the paragraph
no, this is not.
None of these people did
please,
this.
Can you just read that quote, please? It's my favorite.
I mean, sure.
Because what he's doing is, it's quite obvious. He's just saying the opposite of what he believes. He's trying to convince himself, and then he spits the bitterness from his mouth. Because no matter
that's
what
I thought. Yeah. That's what I got from it. I was
really
wondering
nice.
if you had a different opinion.
No.
Hang on.
It's this type of, the montage type of thoughts, which Erikson does really well, like memories of ice and things like that. It just quickly gives a glimpse of the entire denier story, right? To make it all common humanity type of a background. It's extremely good. I really liked it. Is it too long to read out, or should we move on?
No, that's fine. So they looped through another burned out cluster of huts, stepping around blackened corpses. None of these dead deniers had ever held hands or dreamed of heroic deeds. None had slept in a mother's arms or felt the caress of a lover and shivered in the realization that fortune favored them by each precious touch. None had whispered promises to others or to themselves. None had ever been broken. None had ever broken them. None had ever wept over a child's future, or caught the morning song of a bird hidden in the trees, or felt cool water sliding smooth down their throat. None had prayed for a better world. And then he spits.
Amazing. That is so, because he keeps telling himself that he has to make everything faceless, right?
Mhm.
Being a semi-decent person, he can't do that. He's trying to make them like less than Tiste. They're not like us. We are the ones who think about these things. We are the ones who sleep in our mother's arms or catch the morning song of a bird, but not them, not them. He tries to say that to himself. He can't because he's semi-decent. No? What's your thoughts?
Well, I can't talk about it now because that's in the next
Okay,
chapters,
we'll put a pin
like
on
1920.
that. Can
But
you remember that?
it's a
Yeah,
good point. Yeah, I'll try. It's a good point. It comes up again, so it's fine.
sure.
But anyway, that aside, Narad's thoughts continue. Every crime committed was a betrayal. Irish. Barriers had to be overcome in order
I think
for
you have to
crimes to
be
be committed.
more explicit about the Resh connection because it's been a while. It was like
The hawk
beginning of
betrays
the
the
book.
hare.
Yeah, you don't need the entire quote, but this is something that came up long ago between Warlock
Yeah.
Resh and Caplo Dream, where they said that
Mhm,
violence is always an act of betrayal, even if it is between a
mhm.
predator and prey. That's all. That's all. We can move on.
It's from like chapter 9. Yeah.
It's only 9? I thought it was before that.
Yeah. It's when Triss and Caplo or like Triss, Caplo, and Resh are moving along, and it's like,
I thought it was before that. Okay.
if
Yeah.
Mother Dark had taken her with silence, there would be no violence. There would be forever peace and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. Like this book is pretty good.
You actually miss Caplo Dream now, right? Yeah. We know that.
Only just. So barriers had to be overcome in order for crimes to be committed. A breach of propriety, a discarding of respect, the breaching of the sanctity of the flesh, which became increasingly easier as the offender went on. From the levels of betrayal previously agreed upon, society could then devise laws and appropriate punishment for said betrayals, and thereby could dispense justice. But that
That
justice was
exact
collective, indeed faceless, and would deprive every criminal of what they desired, or rather needed the most, a shot at redemption. Discuss.
no, that exact phrase, sanctity of the flesh, it comes up with Seren Padak in whichever book, Reaper Scale or whatever. That phrase, it just stood out to me.
Hmm.
Something like sanctity of flesh is a lie or something.
Ooh.
It was very
More
sad.
moping.
Oh.
Non-Tiste moping in my Tiste book. What is this? No, yeah.
Reaper's Gale is like the Moper's Gale. It is so
Yeah.
bad. But yeah, I mean, for a first timer, it was very bad. But now I see.
Right.
So, done? Are we done with this section?
No, there's more. Never
Yeah.
mind. We'll talk about it in a discussion because I'm never going to finish this read. So, what would people like Narad, filled with regret yet guilty all the same, not do for that shot at redemption? As among him, soldiers one and all, weren't burdened by similar regrets, and Narad finds it perfectly just to have them executed in return for what they did. But he yearns to make things right again, all the while knowing for a fact that things can never quite be right again. His first gesture towards making things right once more will be to find something right to fight for and stand in the way of all wrongdoers. In doing so, he will deprive Anestius betrothed from his vengeance, which Narad supposes he must be seeking, because vengeance won't sustain him. Nor make things any better. Irony.
What?
I mean, vengeance. The guy who wields vengeance, seeking these people out. It's that irony which Steve plays a lot with. Never mind. Sorry.
Yeah.
So yeah, echoes of laughter reached Narad and basically revealed to him the absurdity of his own claims. His was the face of war, and now he could do nothing more. He could be nothing more than what he could be. And one must wonder, is it enough to be seen to try?
Is it here?
That's from Marathon to Draconis in chapter 16.
Yeah. Okay. Sure.
And
Yeah.
like
Good point.
all of Narad's thought and justice come back in Hold the Hound with Shirdomin and in this book. Particularly in the next chapter, and a lot in the next book. So hold that thought just in general.
So Narad appears in the
Um,
next book. Is it what you're spoiling here? It's sad.
I'm spoiling
Very
that
sad.
justice is the particularly big theme in Full of Light, which, yeah.
I didn't know.
Um,
Thematic spoilers.
oh, yeah, I'm sorry. So, scene 5. Back to the Board of Swords, since they need to actually bury Raskan. Rent at this point has gone off the deep end, straight into the shitmire of self-recrimination, jaded cynicism, and self-loathing. Rent's a great guy to have around right now.
No,
I'm telling you right now.
seriously. Rint
Uh,
made me very sad, so don't joke about Rint.
yeah, yeah. He finds it difficult to recall Raskan's face, emotif, I reckon, and leads him to his final resting place and mopes.
What's the
The
speech
harsh
he
words
gives
he
him?
uses,
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
even remember. It's something about like the dead not speaking to the living, which is just depressing, straight up.
He's like headless and bare of feet. We yield what remains of Raskan. This is how he begins his eulogy. We leave him alone now upon this hill, but he has no eyes with which to see, no voice to utter his losses, and not even the voice of the wind will mourn for him. Please, Rint. Surely there must be softer words for this moment. This is Galak. So, please go on. They leave him there, and then, oh god, this is really good.
Yeah.
I think you should just read out this whole, back and forth, because what soft words
He
would you
just
like to hear,
mopes.
Galak? No, what
Mopes.
comforts do you yearn for? So Galak says he was a child of Mother Dark. Rint cuts in, his soul abandoned to foreign fate. He served his lord to be made a plaything for his lord's old lover. Abyss takers, Rint. It surely will, Galak. Very well then, heed these soft words. And this is when he tells the actual good stuff. Raskan, I give voice to your name one more time. Perhaps she left some of you in the embers of the morning fire. Perhaps you looked upon us through flames, or when the wind's breath fanned the coals. Yeah, yeah, yeah. This is all, the normal one, not fun ones. Still you will not speak. Still you will grant us no comfort and no cause for hope. Raskan, you are dead. And to the living, it seems you have nothing to say. So be it. As you say, Rind is a great guy to be with right now.
So, Severin chastises Rint. Regret is an endless spiral to depression, and it will do him no good to actually go down it, but his response turns her away. The words he uses do little more than cut, but they cut both ways. All Rint does nowadays is bleed. Ooh.
Ouch. Ouch.
Ouch, indeed. Yeah. They set off towards Riven Keep. Along the way, Rint studies the rock formations, natural or artificial, and ponders further, or mopes further, if you will. The scenes painted on many of his boulders depict past hunts, relics of the past, portraying little more than scenes of death. They show an exalted time long gone, but the scenes now echo faintly. The dead speak to the living, Rint thinks, through an array of frozen images, delivering themes of loss and grief. And at last, he understands that he could mope forever, but I doubt to stop him.
Okay, just
Alas,
one thing I wanted to
yeah.
point out, because these are all like cave paintings, type of old type paintings, right? Of beasts charging and stick figures with spears and all that. There is this thing called on none of these drawings there is any line denoting solid ground. Is this like a thing? Like, do the old
Yeah,
cave
they're
paintings
floating.
and all don't have a
I
ground?
think so. Yeah.
Because there is no concept of like flight or anything, right? But I don't know. It's really weird. Why wouldn't someone just draw a ground? They're going to
Because
show
it's
horses.
difficult to draw a plane on a rock that's three-dimensional.
God, no, Lee. If you are given a chalk and asked to draw a stick figure drawing, wouldn't you start with a ground first and make the figure stand on the ground and then the cows at a distance or something? It's weird. It's weird, and because there is a line here that it must be something significant. Maybe we found that
I'm
no one in the
assuming it's
ancient times.
implicit. Maybe everyone fucking flew it. I don't know. I'm assuming like it's implicit that like this is the ground that they're standing on, they're not floating
Yeah,
in
but no
midair,
one
and
drew
this
it.
is
That's
just
what I'm
remains open.
saying.
Eh,
Right. Not interesting
anyway,
enough for you. No problem. Go on.
I didn't say that. I'm just saying, I'm not an
It
archaeologist.
just
I'm
stood
not an
out to me.
anthropologist.
I
I don't
want.
know.
Yeah, we'll look it up. So yeah, they see
Uh,
smoke.
So yeah, they see smoke. The border swords notice smoke hang above Raven Keep and start riding in silence. Rind longs to see his wife and child once again. He had sworn vengeance against Draconis, but all this is now done for him. No more loss, no more despair. It's time to finally nurture a loving family. Something he could never do. His temper was too fierce, his wife too guarded, and let's admit, too scared. But all that was going to change in this new world. He was determined to prove that the hand that could paint the past paint the future.
Can I say,
Yeah.
just because Steve is spending an extraordinary amount of time building up just to all shut everything down, you don't have to spend this much time in the summary here. You know what's coming up next. Don't drag it
No,
out.
it's like actually important to mention whatever. It's okay. Like thematically
I mean,
important.
fine, justified.
So alas, again, the border swords happen onto a large hunting party, the Warner as mentioned, and Rint quite quickly puts two and two together. The smoke hasn't reached the keep, with nobody present, and as a last-ditch effort, Rint retreats within his own mind. He had joined Draconis after yet another argument, and had taken on Farron because she'd taken up drinking. His wife would understand, surely. The leader of the hunting party, our lead mod, informed the border swords that the villagers are all dead, and the single escapee, Lahanis, has informed that the perpetrators are the houseblades of House Dracons. They ride to war. In these last moments, Rin's thoughts drift to Farron. She at least got to see her child, but his attempts to conjure up the image of his wife fails him again and again. As I said, this comes up again. Rint is all but dead to the world. The border swords ride to war, and he yearns for it so that he may rejoin his family. God damn it, dude, this guy mopes. Anyway.
He has good reason to mope. Would you
Yeah,
regret
absolutely.
that? Poor fellow.
No, of course not. Of course not. I didn't say that. I just said he mopes a lot. But yeah, so that was chapter
Excellent
17.
chapter. Yeah, very
It
good.
is really
Thank you.
good, and it's like
Yeah.
moderately short for how long of a summer it took me. As you can
Yeah.
tell, like they just keep getting verbose the longer they're going.
But it was good. It was very sad. The whole border swords thing, it just filled me with dread. Like, yeah.
Mhm.
So that was 17.
Yeah.
Went well. Should we go to 18 now?
Yeah.
Do you have anything you want to bring up with less spoilers here?
From 17, beyond what I already brought up, I think I'm gonna save a few things for 18 in the discussion. Beyond that, we mentioned already, like that the attack on different cues is sad. I don't know. These people are just awful. I don't have much to say beyond that. Just they're terrible.
They are, yeah.
So
Right. I'll go to chapter 18. So we move from wherever we are, like Riven Keep. We move to the Wardens in the Outer Reach. The whole place is in a sort of turmoil. And Khaled Hussein has assessed that the threat in the Vitr is more important, and so he plans to ride there. He's going to take Spinach Dura with him to check out the threat. And he tells Captain Finara Stone to take Farrer Hand for this multi-step plan. Okay, step 1: find the Sheikh Monastery. Tell them that the Wardens will not answer the call to pogrom. They will provide the monastery with support, including military assistance if they need it. Step 2: Finara will meet Urusander, but she's going to avoid Karkanas and ask him this particular question: what in the name of the abyss do you want? And Farrarhen, he's also going to avoid Karkanas and go on to Hust Legion with a secret message, which will be told only to her. Meanwhile, Kalatustin has some thoughts about how faith is a personal accord between a soul and its belief. Any other way of describing it is simply politics. Is a faith to be so weak that its only definition of strength lies in raw numbers and avowals of fidelity, in words made into laws and pronouncements, all of which need to be backed by an executioner's sword? Yeah, nice quote. So he knows that Finara might be arrested by Urisander, but that is a risk he is willing to take. And then she questions him on his witr mission, and he says that he just wants to check it out for himself. And this is not the right time for him to leave the outer reach unguarded, so he leaves behind Ilga's friend to act as commander. She doesn't trust Ilgast fully, Finara, because he rode in with Humral after all, but she doesn't say anything. Then she comes out to the main hall, and this is when we start behaving like, like a daytime soap opera scene or something, because she sees. Before that, yeah, she looks at all the people, all the wardens, and thinks that what if there are deniers here? What if there are like fanatic Mother Dark believers here? And this is the whole point of civil war, right? Like you start mistrusting your fellow citizens. Then she sees Spinach and Farrow are sitting too close to each other. At this point, I can't say who she's more into, but I don't know whether she is more into Spinach or Farrow during this scene. But Tiste are thirsty. So she sends Farrow to meet Khaled Hussein, and then she chats up Spinach. Yeah. Do you do you dispute this?
No, not at all.
I know. So Khaled Hussein tells Farrow Hand that she has just missed her betrothed, who would have, who was coming looking for her. So he would have liked to meet Kagamandra because he was a captain of the legion, but also he's a new noble now. And then Pharaoh says it is better to ask people like Ilgast about his loyalty rather than Kagamandra, whether what he's going to do, whether he's going to stand with the legion or whether he's going to be a noble, whether he's going to take part or step aside or whatever. He wants to know. If he had met Kagamandra, he would have found out what's going on. Anyway, her task after the Yanis monastery is to ride to the Husk Legion to meet his wife, Taurus, and ascertain her loyalty. Farrar is a little bit surprised at this, that such marriages can exist, and she decides that this could be a possible future for her. Which is fair, yeah. And but she's also warned to avoid Karkanas, and even during her return, she's not to go to Karkanas or seek out Kagamandra. And Khaled calls it that Karkanas is about to become a web. With an indifferent mistress at its center, I see a convergence of males, each one eager for her embrace. Pharaoh thinks, it's like a spider web. What if the chosen one is going to be devoured? And it would be an odd victory. And he says, yeah, it would, wouldn't it? So
God,
we're not going to think
every
too deeply
line
into
out of
this.
Khalad's name, out of
I
Khalad's
know.
mouth in this
Yeah.
book, it's just.
Yeah.
Please continue. I'm gonna gush
Yeah,
a
they
little bit,
talk.
but continue.
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah, Khaled, he hasn't had much screen time so far, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
and then they talk about if the Sheikh would still be cursing Pharaoh for bringing the Azathanai who resurrected their river god. But then he also tells her that, to take measure of the Sheikh when she goes there, when Finara is like talking to the mother or whatever. And she has to give him her opinion on how determined these people are. And then he assures her that Farrer is not really culpable because, the Azathanai would have met Mother Dark somehow or the other. And they wonder this. I think you have a quote you want to bring up there, right? They wonder about how much of the events can be any one person's doing. And then,
Yeah.
yeah.
We deceive ourselves if we imagine that we proceed through life with any semblance of control over what is to come, and we should be thankful for the humility. If it had been otherwise, if indeed every event in history were guided by our hands, then we have long since relinquished any claim to virtue. Every triumph we might weigh would be little more than a redressing of scales to answer our own crimes in the past.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. Then, because she can't control herself, she asks if Spinach is also going to join them. And he says no, he's going to the Vitr. And then he somewhat rudely tells her that, her loss of control would be a crime upon herself and also others, which is an amazing quote. No problem, bring it up. You can
It's
feel free to quote
absolutely
it.
like it's so verbose and
Amazing.
it's so
Yeah.
Carcanas. It's so good. Observe well the likely failure of my intercession, Firehand, and consider for yourself the crimes your loss of control shall force upon not just you but many others.
Nice. Don't fuck your cousin. That's all he's saying. That's all he needs to say. Yeah. I'm going to stop you. I'm going to cockblock both of you so that, whatever. So, anyway, with this, Pharaoh Hand is like shocked, Pikachu
Not,
face.
not
And
even
then,
Krupp can approach the level of verbosity. God damn.
yeah. Then, in her mind, she blames Finara because obviously she has to have poisoned Khaled's ear and Like nobody could have picked up the way she's thirsting over him. And then she
Of
comes out
course.
and she looks pale enough to be noticed and says goodbye and goes to start packing. Then Finara and Spin. I don't know. Can I say I'm quite happy that I'm getting to do these scenes repeatedly right from the beginning. I think most of the Spinach scenes have been mine, right? So I'm
Probably,
happy.
yeah.
Maybe I looked it up. I should have, but yeah. So Finara sees that Spinach seems ready to follow his cousin. She steps in and she asks if he's eager to return to the Vitra, and he says he will regret leaving her command. She tries to be a professional, but he says he will miss her. Finara
Hmm.
responds with how much she is affected by his charms, like something like, "I hope your new commander is more, whatever, charm proof or something." And then he steps it up, where that when he rode back with her, he never tired of her embrace. Let's remember that she was fevered, she was bitten, she was wounded, poisoned, and had lost a lot of blood during that ride. But this guy has the audacity to say he never tired of her embrace. She was tied to him so that she wouldn't fall off. Right. Just remember that. Then he keeps calling her sir, and then she tells him, "Enough, we don't have time." And he responds with, "But it is all we have, Finara. No more sir." Okay. So she tells him to step back, and he goes back to calling her sir. And he says that, "I'm happy that this impulse has revealed my feelings for you." And this confuses Finara. They decide that at a future point, they're going to continue this conversation privately. And then she's still daydreaming when she reaches the outer compound and she's told that her mounts are ready. She meets one of the wardens and tells him to keep an extra eye on young Spinach. I have no idea why, but she does this. And anyway, by the end
So
of
he
this scene,
doesn't fuck the whole.
sorry, what?
So he doesn't fuck the whole contingent.
I
Might actually just like lay the entire company at this rate. If
God.
he hits on anything that moves like this. God damn.
It's
Okay,
so
sorry.
weird. Spinach is like so okay. Anyway, by the end of this scene, she is no longer confused. Remember, she was confused. Now she's no longer confused because she's decided she's going to have him anyway. For at least a small time, she's going to have him. The actual quote is sort of NSFW, so we're not going to. Are you going to quote that?
No.
Yeah,
There's no
we
need.
there's no need. Yeah, we know what the Tiste are capable of thinking. So Farrer has been packing her kit, and Spinach meets her. He tells her that he was flirting with Finara, and she tells him that there is a reason she doesn't have a husband because she would rather have. He thinks that it's because he's seen some wayward look in her eyes and all that, and Farrer says no, it's because she would rather have a wife. She teases men and plays with them for some time, and Spinach says he has no problem being used. So he says,
Am I the only one that gets Chalice 5 from this?
sorry, what? Chalice
Am I
vibes
the
here.
only guy that gets
No,
Chalice
you're the
vibes?
only
Yeah.
one. No, there is no chalice vibes
There's
here. Come
literally
on.
there's literally a scene just with this. Just use me so you can, defend your honor or some such.
But that was
From the limb.
that came from a place of so much sadness and so much. Farah is just like,
Okay.
I can't get you, so she's not going to get you. This is from a different place.
God.
They're not the same. These are the Taist. First of all, they're Darujistan people, and these are the Taist. There's a huge difference. So yeah, he says he is weak of resolve. So Farah immediately she kisses him. He says no and tries to move
He
away.
broke
So
him.
she gropes him, and then he says no again. And now she's a little bit surprised. Yeah,
Oh, really? God.
she's surprised, and because he's flirted so much with her, he says it was just a game with no risk of resolution. So, I mean, you should not victim blame, but if anyone deserves groping in this scene, seriously. He says it was a game with no risk of resolution. She tells him that resolution is not a risky outcome because now we have moved to the metaphor of fencing, right? Flirting is fencing. I suppose. So, anyway, he says the only thing stopping him. God, why did I summarize this with so much detail? The only thing that is stopping him is that they're cousins, or he would have made her body a thing well used and earned like the hate of every
We
Taist.
didn't. Okay.
What? Go on.
No, please continue.
Please go on. You can't just bring up something and not even.
No, like we didn't mention the quote before because we're students of W, but like this is fine. Okay.
That was okay. That was a physical position. This is just a idea.
Okay, all right, fine.
Yeah, the grades of
Just for the
necessity.
record, like a single chapter ago, people were dying in mass, and
And
now we
we were
have
sad
this.
about it. We were sad about it.
We were
But
sad about it, and I was like,
yeah, now we are no longer sad. So she tells him that every game will turn serious eventually. He might as well retreat
"Oh
now
god."
and prove that he isn't that weak willed. She continues this fencing metaphor that when the dueling is done to exhaustion, one or the other must drop their guard and smile at their own blood spilling. But will the winner then set tongue to the wounds of the loser? He says that the winner will turn the blade on himself because he uses the pronoun he because he's so sure he's going to win whatever stupid game this is. She says that the game is then being played for scars and tells him to play on and not think of her. Once he leaves, she sits and cries and she thinks that the game is lost the moment you forget it was a game. I told you this is like a daytime soap opera. That's all this is. You just
Cried for
think of
these
it.
idiots.
You cry.
Okay, not for these idiots in specific, but like this
Yeah,
book
yeah.
throws ones to tears, and then like there's this, but like, oh yeah, oh I'm so sorry, because
Yeah,
whatever,
yeah. No, this
whatever,
this
it's
Pinnock.
fine.
Do you remember people saying that how can he fall in love with Salin, who's like 16, 17? This Pinnock, I have no trouble believing he would do anything like this. Like, seriously. He was flirting with his cousin because for no reason, but he actually likes Finara and he flirts with her. And yeah, let us stop value judging. This is what I told you. You know, we have good chance to value judge these people, right? So now Ilga's friend, I think, oh no, Khaled Hussein is telling Ilga's friend to stay and take care of the wardens while he goes to the Vitter, and Ilgast is mad at Urusander. He wishes he had whipped the hide off the dog Hunral long ago. Khaled accurately says that the resurrection of the river god has changed this from a political war to a religious one, and they're both aware that Hunral's ambition is to restore the Iskid line to become a noble born again. So Khaled hopes that Ilgast can find the answer to the Wit from the Azathanai or the Jagut. Anyway, Ilgast says that he will hold the wardens in readiness for his return because they have declared neutrality, and Khaled thinks that perhaps other legionnaires and highborn, everyone, they can also do the same, they like declare neutrality. Ilgast thinks there is a madness in the ties that flows beneath bedrock, which can crack under pressure. He wishes for the coming of a righteous God who will punish only the sinners. And he doesn't know if he would fear such a power in Mother Dark's hands. Calatustin tells him that he fears such a god because who knows if any of them would be actually spared. Ilgast is clear that he has chosen the only non-violent path, so he's going to travel west and seek knowledge. Even his houseplates would be told to just hold the land and nothing more. But till Calatustin returns, he is not even going to move from his chair, not even going to give a single order. This doesn't last like half a chapter, this whole thing. Then Kagamandra, who is according to Toll the Hounds, what was he? What was Kagamandra to
And
us?
it
Not just that, he was the first master of the Hounds of Shadow.
and Tiste leader, which
No, we're not going to discuss such things. He's Kagamandra Tulas, a wrinkled war
and he's
veteran.
shorn.
Not yet.
No, not yet, obviously.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm just saying that he was an animal lover in Told the Hounds, and we see the beginnings of that here. He tells Sharinas how, when he was training.
Wasn't it like chapter 15 when like Sulcas and Scarrow were bantering about giving him more hounds because
But
he
we didn't
loves
know
animals?
that it was because he loved animals. We just thought they were doing it for fun to enliven him or something. I don't know. So anyway, he is telling Sharinas about the nature. Okay, before we do this, we are shipping these two, right? Kakamandra and Sharinas. Yeah.
Gallan is too, so it's fine. We talked about this before. It's fine.
But I don't believe Gallan, but I hope. Yeah. So anyway, he tells her that hunting dogs have, whenever they are facing the unexpected, they can either fight, flight, or freeze, etc. But people are not hunting dogs, so their reactions would be unpredictable. this is all happening when they're riding to Neretso. So instead of monologues, we now have dialogues. The legion has gathered in response to Rusander's call, and they have been commanding food grains to feed the army. Kagamandra says his response has been to freeze in response. Okay, my word choices are pretty bad. So Kagamandra says he has been frozen in response to his commander's order. He wonders what is happening at Karkanas, and right now they're waiting for Sergeant Yeld to come back with news from Karkanas. Sharinas is sure that the deniers are being butchered, and Tulas thinks that they must have fled to the monastery for protection. Obviously. They hope that the war doesn't last long, since Sharinas is confident that Urusander will march and kill all the killers for justice. And Hunral, either he will face Urusander's ire or the Highborn ire, somewhere. One of them is going to take care of him. They concede that perhaps events have gone beyond a single captain's control. Sharina says she has decided her place in this. I don't think we find out right now what she's decided. But Kagamanda says he is choosing to return to Glimmer Fate to continue looking for his betrothed. He wants to chase her, and tell her that he's going to stay away from her. And he will not even touch her after marriage. So Sharina scolds him that if she were in Farrowhand's place, she would react with anger and humiliation. She tells him this kind of sacrifice is actually selfish because
Sorry.
we are back. So what is Kagamandra saying? That he's going to return to Glimmer Fate and he's going to. Oh yeah, I finished all that. So she tells him that this type of sacrifice, that he will not touch her and all that, is actually selfish, and he's trying to make a martyrdom of marriage. How will anyone yield to something like that? And she's too young to give in, and she will not confirm his sense of self worthlessness, Farrowhand. And he says that she's very young, and she calls him arrogant. So anyway, she gives him good advice that she sort of understands that he's been hurt before, and this is all a way of protecting himself and all that. She then apologizes for leaping past propriety
Which,
and
by the way, is
extremely good.
100% correct. Like it
So
should be.
good.
It should be
So,
noted. She is right. She's not
yeah,
wrong.
yeah. So then she immediately apologizes for crossing a line, and says that for all her advice, she is as forlorn as him. And this is literally all it takes for Tulas to say he should have proposed to her. This is all. Just one woman talks to him nicely, and he says, I'm going to marry you. So they flirt some more, and then they stop. Finally, they have decided that he is going to leave the Legion and he's going to stay a highborn. She tells him to get a head start by leaving right now, but she doesn't want to make it look like they're all abandoning Urusander at the same time. So she decides. Anyway, they both decide to go and meet Urusander. Now, Urusander has given his keep to Sintara, and he's been living in one of the command tents. They notice that Sergeant Yald is returning, and Sharina tells Tulas that, don't get swayed if there is any bad news. His loyalty should be to himself, and his duty should be to the woman he's going to marry. Now we move to Sintara's POV. Art, yeah, you have anything more?
Not in particular. So far. Generally, Sharinas and Kagamandra are like the two Legion captains that are actually worth their salt. I guess.
Okay.
I mean, Elgast is decent, a bit prude, but decent. These two, I don't know. I like these two more. I can't think of any other. And there's Skara. There's not my captain. Yeah, but he's not my captain, so it counts.
Right. No, they're good. They're a good couple, so that's why we like them. So she's in the vault room, Sintara, and they've lit a lot of candles. Because of this candlelight, she thinks that she looks like she's been made of gold. And she's had like thoughts of a triumphant return to the city. The Azathanai's gift seems to be growing inside her, like a pregnancy, except that she's not tired or anything. And when she fled from Karkanas, Hunral never gave her the escort he had promised. That awesome scene where they both.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell me.
Sindara generally uses a lot of female body imagery, like this gift's growing in my womb. Yeah, exactly. Like she is like, how does she describe it? Hang on.
A man's seed. She particularly says that. Yeah.
Fuck. There's a part about like being full of breasts and stuff. It's just like it's
Yeah, the whole,
weird. It's
no,
weird.
she's just describing pregnancy. I don't think you have to stretch too far for that. Right. We know that she's a high priestess, so let's not be rake and slut shame high priestesses.
Oh yeah, my bad.
Yeah. So when after that awesome scene with Hunral, he's never given her an escort, which he promised. And so they pass the same woods where deniers were also being killed, she and a small group of companions. At Neretsor, picket soldiers have stopped them, and she recalls how, the first meeting went so badly because they thought that they're just like camp whores till they identify themselves. And the standing army seems to be restless to her when they pass it because they have gathered as commanded, but there have been no orders so far. At the keep, she's directly led to Urusander by Castellan. How do you say the name? Haradiger, whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
So he takes her straight to Urusander, and Urusander's first question, as soon as he sees her, High Priestess, what are you doing here? Not High Priestess, High Priestess, what are you doing here? So Sintara says something like, Lord, you're alone, but you must present yourself as the only hope for peace. Draconis is, after all, just a concept because she knows, Mother Dark knows, that no man is her equal, and any union with her would be unequal. At this, Urisander gets mad and asks, what is his talk of marriage? Did anyone ask me? Did anyone ask Mother Dark?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yes. So what does this happen? Sintara says, okay, so you just worship her. There is no talk of love, no talk of marriage here. Let's just talk about politics. Isn't that amazing? I like Sintara now. The Return of the Legion,
I don't.
that's your choice. You're wrong, but yeah.
Okay.
So the Return of the Legion could be seen as a belligerent act by the rest of the Tiste. So he says it's because, there is religious uprising against Mother Dark, so that's why he's gathered the Legion. Sintana corrects him that now the river god is not a threat, and they only have to worry about the greater houses versus the Draconis fight, which is going to happen eventually. Especially since Nimander, the senior, he was once slated to marry Mother Dark. But since Nimander died, and he died badly, and some people suspect that Draconis was behind it. She says that Draconis is not that bad because he even refused the throne that was offered to him by Mother Dark. I think this is just utter lies. I don't think Mother Dark offered him
No.
any. She did.
I mean,
She did have a second throne. I don't think so.
not the throne, but like there was talk in like earlier chapters about marriage between the two, and then one of them said no because she didn't want a husband.
One of them. Which one of them said no?
I'm not sure. I don't remember. It's like somewhere earlier info, which we know why. The real reason why, because Dracon's an Azathanai, and that would be pretty bad if he were to marry a mortal woman, because it's just bringing in night to the realms required death, and the creation of the tiles. Now imagine if he went on and married someone who was a ruler of a country, the rest of the Azathanai would throw a bitch fit, and Gallan would get leveled, which I'm not sure if it's a bad thing anymore. But the point is, he had denied, or she had denied him a throne earlier. So this whole thing is a foregone conclusion, and they're still arguing about it because they don't know, because they're stupid.
Yeah. Okay,
I don't
I
like
think
it.
the final point
Carry
is that. Okay. Urusander thinks that if he is so noble that he's refused the throne and all that, so why not spread the word of his sacrifice? But Sintara says that it could be seen as him defying Mother Dark's command, and he's already seen as being arrogant, and nobody really likes him. So Urusander is clearly shocked that the Highborn, they would go to war over this. This is what he's asking. And then she's
Which
then
really
told,
shouldn't be surprising. But
yeah,
anyway.
like Urusander is so naive in this. He's then told that the Legion soldiers have been chasing deniers in Highborn estates. She tells him to recall even the renegade companies and, let us at least try and salvage this once we get them back. Slowly, he gains some respect for her. She explains to him that this transformation on her, because Urusander is too polite to ask what's going on. And she says because Urusander was not, he's too polite to ask her what happened. So that she explains that this transformation was a gift given by Azathanai. And so now there are three factions in this religious war. They also wonder where Hunral has gone, probably to the Hust. And they suspect if Toras is going to arrest him immediately. Sintara sort of defends Hunral, saying that he truly, really wants to see Urusander sitting next to Mother Dark on a throne. Yeah,
which
she does.
he just went over about not actually wanting. Which, yeah, cool,
No,
great.
about seeing yeah, Urusanda might sit on a throne for the sake of the realm. He might. So she asks for a
I'm sure
place of
he might.
contemplation. Yeah. She wants a place to contemplate this new gift she's had, and he says, "You can keep the tent, keep, and I'll move to the tent." So of course there is no official proclamation of sanctuary for her, and she bows and says, "I will remain in the keep, Lord, and not seek you out." He sort of looks at her ironically because she could have said the same thing back in Karkanas and spared the whole thing. So, with this contemplation, she has decided that Urusander will be made father light because, for balance sake, like he will oppose Mother Dark, like the right and left hands, so that they can be clasped together and they find strength and balance. But what about the river god? Maybe they can just banish it without, much bloodshed. Maybe we can send the deniers to the south along the river. Surely the Forkful Asylum is not going to, they're not going to mind having a bunch of denier refugees in their land. You know, you know how tolerant that race is. So she doesn't know how to go about this light business. Are you following? Am I being too obscure?
Yeah, no, yeah. The-
Okay, and then she wonders like what to do about this light. Maybe does she need a temple? Does she need a throne, etc.? She thinks, and she doesn't have an answer. So Renar, we come to Renar. I don't know.
Before we go on, can I discuss this a bit?
Yeah,
So,
please.
so she does mention at the very end, um, and no, we need to not to speak of love, only necessity. Something I think you understand. We shall make your father light, whether you welcome the title or not. Which is
Yeah,
cold,
yeah.
fascinating, and also reeks of the same self-centered bullshit that we've been going over quite a while now since the last chapter. What Risk has been saying, what Gallan has been propping up, like necessity. I mean, yeah, okay, this gets brought up by a lot in Fellow of Light, sure, but even
No, the
here,
whole necessity. Yeah. It's quite
the only
fascinating.
person that seems to question the whole necessity thing is Narad. Which again, if the only
Yeah,
person to question
yeah.
something is Narad, you fucked up. But in any case, yeah. And then Renar mopes. So yeah, please go
Not
on.
mopes, but then. So she's in the balcony. She's thinking extremely dour thoughts. That's all I've summarized.
God,
She's
yeah.
left behind a modest life with modest triumphs. Oh, that quote made me cry that day. So, with modest triumphs to a future that is bereft of wonder. She remembers the man she had loved, who was quick to fight against ridicule, and also equally quick to weep over his one careless swing, which like broke her face. She imagines walking out of this tall tower where she's been taken under the care of a guilt-ridden lord, and she imagines getting slut-shamed in the village. But in her imagination, she goes all the way to the tavern, gets a client, prostitutes herself, and finds a world of pleasure and despair entwined. Then she learns that her father has died, but it doesn't really affect her as he has died a long time ago. After this, she decides to go down to the village for real. So
We're quickly glossing over this, but go
we are
back and read
going
it
to.
because the whole
It
thing
is
is
so sad.
very
It is like,
fascinating.
yeah, it's fascinating, but it's very, very, very sad.
Because the imagery that she employs is very interesting because her home doesn't feel like home. She looks upon Nerit Sword from above, from a tower, which she's never been before, and the view isn't the same. And then she tries
But
to imagine herself in the village of her youth, where she grew up, and she is alien to that place. Everyone looks at her, and if they laugh, it's strained, but it's forgivable because it's fine. She's the Lord's daughter after all. And then someone looks at her, and he reeks of ale, and then he bumps up against her mm. And she's okay. You know what? Fine. He laughs at his awkward jokes and all of that, and then they go on, and then some woman comes up to her and says, "There's a cut," and it
yeah,
just this world cannot fit Renar anymore, and it saddens her. So she seeks refuge. She seeks some way back in her mind, but even in her mind, it's not enough because she doesn't feel like she fits anymore. So she goes down for real
and we
to
stop there.
try and
We stop the
actually
scene
fit.
there.
And we
We
stop the
stop
scene
there.
there.
Yeah,
And then, Gurren has died, but she doesn't care because he died a long time ago when she looked at her. God, dude, that just
I
whatever.
know.
It's fine.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
fine. It's just,
See,
it's just
I think it was a good decision that I glossed over that whole thing. Yeah. So now we switch to Serap, who follows Sharina's, Kagamandra, Sergeant Yell to a command meeting with Urisander. Yell thinks that Hundral has gone to the Husk Legion bearing wagon loads of gifts. Sharina tries to undermine Sintara's presence in the meeting, who replies that she is a symbol of their unease and she is there to announce a changed world. Sharina's backhand compliments that she thought the high priestesses were only good in bed, because I'm not going to use those words. And Urisander says, he enters and he just says, I'm waiting. Oh, sorry. You're still not over that. Good in bed.
uh,
Yeah.
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 Those words, they were great words. They were yeah.
No, I don't
I
think I've,
think I tweeted them. I'm not sure if I tweeted them. I should
oh
have
no,
if
I
I
don't.
didn't.
Yeah, we will do it today. So anyway, Yeld breaks the news of the death of High Bonds. That House Ennis, everyone has been killed, including the hostage, and the only survivor is the brother who was ripped out his eyes. What? What's the reaction for?
Nothing. I mean,
And
we knew that, so you know.
how? Fake shock. So anyway, Kagamandra has not Kagamandra. What's his name? Kadaspala has accused Scarabandari's company because that's the only company he met. Everyone is shell shocked, and you know what Sintara does? Because I'm starting to like her a lot.
I'm going to talk about
What?
this in a second.
Yeah,
Just
what?
no, go on. Summarize this.
I'll
No,
continue.
go on.
Yeah, your favorite. I know the next line. By what laws shall we be governed? That is what she starts her whole amazing political speech. And she says that the Legion demands are legit because look at the way they are grieving over a highborn family and they've never once bothered about all the deniers being killed. Not even the father of the young girl who's staying in the keep. He's died and nobody has, grieved over or mourned over that. But for this faraway highborn family, look at the way they're all grieving over them. Sharina tries to defend them, but Sintara is having none of it. She tells Urisander to take upon himself the burden of righteousness for the sake of justice. For the sake of justice. Do you have a good quote there? I think you have something there. How shall I go on?
Weep for us all. I assure you, none here will run left ears. Sharina's hands had curled in the bloodless fists at her side. To what end? Justice. Okay,
Justice.
I have a lot of thoughts on this, but please continue.
So, and she also says something like, I know of no law that proclaims the death of some to be greater cause for grief than the death of others. Anyway, she says that the gift which was given by the Azathanai has covered her clean, and she would now yield this gift. Suddenly, Tulas leaves the room, and Sharinas also follows him out. Serap sees that the whole room fills with a golden light, and she tells them to turn away from death and face life. Serap breaks down and cries. Tulas outside in the corridor, he is hugged by Sharinas, who then, he shoves her away. She tells him that a rival to Mother Dark was born in that room. Tulas keeps saying that he will not fight. There will be war, but he will not fight. And a transformed Urusander comes out. He begs Tulas to write to them and tell them Urusander didn't do it. Like, write to them as in, I think, the Purek brothers. And he only replies, Sir, leave me alone. Just amazing. I don't know how this, like, four words can be so apt there. And Sharina says that she will do it on his behalf, and she drags Tulas away, thinking that in this light, even justice will burn. Then we move to Ilga's friend, who has also received the same news. Amazing. He's going to go back on his promise. Do you know why? Because that promise was made in peacetime. Obviously, if you make a promise in peacetime, you're supposed to break it in wartime, right?
Oh,
Right?
to be fair to Elgastrand,
No, we are
his
not going to
reasoning
be
is
fair to
sound.
him. It's
His
not.
reasoning is
It's
sound.
not.
And
No,
he's like
look,
the only
he
person to actually take action.
that is not the point. It doesn't matter that he
Yes,
took
it
action. He
is.
took the wrong action. He thinks
Okay,
because
are
he
we
thinks
going
like
to
a
judge him
military
by
commander
hindsight?
now.
Yes, as you should. People are dying in the
No,
streets, and he has an
see,
army like encamped a few miles away. Like, okay, yeah, you know
he
what? Never
doesn't
mind.
have
I'm
an
just gonna
army.
wait here and let these people die.
Excuse me, he doesn't have an army. He was told to just hold them like a babysitter. Just wait till the parents come back. That's all he had to do. This war could have been anyway. He thinks like a commander, and he decides that this is the right time to strike Lysander. The messenger tells him that there were
Yes,
also The messenger tells him that there were dead deniers at the scene, and he dismisses it outright. And he tells the messenger to rest and ride on to Glimmer Fate with the same news, with the addition that he's going to lead the army to Neretsor to attack Urusander. And he thinks this is the right move, that Urusander is probably too shocked to respond. So he even wonders if the Sheikh are complicit in this, since they're probably not happy with the resurrection of the dead river god. And what are the Sheikh doing right now? We can see that through Finara and Farrarhen's eyes, because they're almost at the Yanis monastery, and they see a mass of refugees leaving and heading east. And where there is only the season's headquarters, which can't accommodate all of them, they talk to one of the refugee guys, and he says they were sent away by the monastery, who took away their children. The elderly have already chosen to stay in the woods and get killed or whatever, and the children have gone to the monastery, and so only these able bodied people are left who have no resources for winter. Farrer wants them to reconsider their message to Yanis, since they're snatching babies. And Finara says she will still deliver the message they're supposed to deliver, and to make amends for the muddy waters between them, Finara tells Farrer, this is amazing, to choose a place to wait and to choose a person to whom this place should be told about. Isn't it perfect? Like in this no mobile phone era and all, just choose a place and tell me to whom I should pass this message. So, and she says that love will need such refugees in the coming war. Farrer says that if such a message has to be passed, it has to be to her betrothed, because obviously she's broken up with her cousin. But she will think about it. She's not sure. And then they debate the morality of the parents giving up their children to the monastery, in contrast to the few who chose to kill their kids rather than have them taken away. Farrer says she's had nightmares where, this is a quote, with each child slain, I saw the slayer's wealth grow in coin stacks, in gems and silks, and slaves at their feet. I saw them grow fat, but through windows there was a flicker of flames drawing ever nearer. So with this, they ride on to the monastery. That was chapter 18. Short and sweet. I finished quickly because I skipped over the whole Renar thing, which was beyond sad. No comments? No questions?
I'm mostly saving them for the discussion.
Oh, do you have a lot there? So,
Because I have a lot to say on Narad, I have a lot to say on Santara, I have a lot to say on Renar. I want to ask you about the last scene here in 18, because I'm not a mother, you know? So, yeah.
you know,
We'll see.
there are a lot of things that I'm not, but I'm still reading the book and trying to see their point of view. The only thing you're not. Okay, yeah, sure. So, should we just wind up then?
It's already an hour and a half, so let's spare the poor listeners my incessant thoughts that are probably going to contain spoilers inevitably. So, and let's actually dig into the actual spoiler chat. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So, thank you for listening. Thank you for your time. And hopefully, next week we'll be winding up. We're almost done with Force of Darkness. Can you believe it? This huge, dense book, we're almost done. So, thanks, Lee. Good night.
The next one is even bigger and even tenser. So, yeah, thank you, Maura. And
I've not looked. Okay. Yeah, bye bye.
yeah, so take care.